Hello friends, welcome back to the Frosty friggin' Folks. We are surviving in this sub-zero temperatures, as you can see here. By the way, somebody told me to check out the relative temperatures so that you can kind of scroll through all of the levels here to figure out what things are hotter than others if everything is looking too much like one color. So that's kind of a cool thing that they added. I guess I've just gotten so much used to the coloring scheme that I guess I'm not really that much of a user of it so far, but oh well, seems pretty cool. But anyway, as we are surviving here, we are learning some things. And one thing that we are learning... Ooh, I have a mutated seed here. I wonder if there's different mutations now. Let me see if I actually have this researched. I'm getting like super distracted. No. If not, we might need to transition. Yep. We might need to transition into what we're actually going to talk about today, which is getting our materials study terminal so we can start getting the yellow research. But a couple points of business first. First, if you dig down, they did say there were new buildings at the bottom, and this is one of them. Here's another one as well. It was somewhere around here. Here we go. This one... If you click on it, it shows this. It just says, this building's part of a geothermal power plant that has malfunctioned before with devastating results. It's currently too unstable to approach safely. Basically, they don't have the content for this yet, so it's just under construction. I don't know if this is the same. Yeah, there we go. So it seems like they're developing a new feature here, and the rest of the buildings don't seem like they're... The rest of the buildings don't seem like they're much more than the typical ones of just, you know, inspect it. There is something to rummage down here, though. But that was interesting, and we are basically hitting the bottom of the map. So I wonder if they're trying to make geothermal power more of a thing than it is currently. So this video mainly is going to be about these. I talked about these a lot in the last video, and I've talked about them a couple times. And I'm pretty sure there are new ones of these dropping. And I don't know if they just drop in from space or if there's a experiment that I want to run, which is burying it and if it will plant itself. If that is the case, which I don't know yet, I'm just going to run an experiment. If that's the case, then this is a new way to naturally plant things that did not exist before. So let me find a place to test this. I need a place where snow is going to fall on top of it so it will get buried. Or I guess sand could do it as well. But let me... Can't find somewhere that's really all that good. Maybe right here? So if I were to move this... Let's try to run this experiment. I'm going to have a duplicate move this here. And then I'm going to dig this out and let sand fall on top of it. And I'll dig out all the tiles except for the one that the seed is in. And then we'll see if it plants it. I don't know if this is how this works or not. But I also don't know how we're getting more trees up here and that they're always at the very top. So either that or they originally were here and they just got buried and these are just digging their way up. I can't really tell. So it is something that's interesting to find out. So this might totally not work. Somebody in the comments probably knows this already and they're like, what are you doing? Why are you making this so hard on yourself? And that's because I want to. Also, there's 14 of them here. I don't know what this is going to do. So I'm just going to try this. We're going to run this experiment and see what happens. If not, there's some other property to these that makes them, like, dig their way up if they can. But I don't quite understand that either. So I might run a test here also, just to drop some debris on this and see if it works its way up instead of staying in this one location. So let's do both at the same time, just to figure out how these things work. We're going to need to do some weird stuff to dig up here. So... let's wait for the snow to fall first, and then I'll dig my way around it. Something is going on. I want to pay more attention to this, but I also want to figure out how we can manipulate this without pips, so that we can get a bunch of these naturally planted and start getting a big nectar harvest going, or start getting some seals fed, a bunch of wild seals. I don't know if that's really a strategy or a thing, but there has to be more to these and these seals than we're seeing so far. So that's my plan. That's what a lot of this video is going to be centered around. The other thing, like I mentioned, once Frankie gets all this stuff done, I'm going to dig a bunch of it out, except for the stuff that falls on here. Okay, so the seed's planted now. I don't know if that's actually going to do anything. Let's continue digging upward, and we will dig up into here and start to drop a whole bunch of stuff on top of this, and then we'll see if this actually like moves up and gets eventually planted somewhere up here. But we'll figure that out. So, the other thing that we need to do is get our materials research up. And the way I want to do this is, now that we have a better cooling solution, we can start taking advantage of the radiation from these Wheezeworts. And, jeez, this freezing is really driving me nuts. We can take advantage of these Wheezeworts and start producing some rad bolts from all this radiation. Our power situation is still not great, but I think we can make do with just this. And as our hydrogen starts to kick in a little bit more and our duplicates settle here more and we get just better flow on that in general, I think we'll be okay. Or I'm going to add more wood burning. I may need to also add more critters. There's a lot of stuff to do here. My wood is basically at 0, so I don't think we can add more wood burning. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to be done. I also might just get up here and start harvesting solar power, because that's one of the cheaper ways to get power. And I guess if I'm not too attached to all this stuff... Actually, you know what I'm curious about? Let me have this snowfall. So oh, you need to stop digging. In theory, it should be able to, I think, dig its way all the way up. There's a seal stuck in there. Okay, this is the tree basically getting itself out. So I don't think it climbs up. I think it's just moving stuff out of the way. Yeah, there we go. So there's got to be some other way that these are getting up here. I don't understand this. All right, well, we ran an experiment and got some results. We're not always going to get the results we expect. And nothing's happening here, right? I don't know. We'll keep our eye on that, see if that does anything. But, yeah, I mean, maybe the next time there's a meteor shower, I'll need to go up here and see what's going on. But, yeah, someone in the comments is like, hey, this is how it works. Also, I'm recording this before the previous video has been released because I'm dealing with some music stuff. I got like a copyright thing on one of them, so I'm trying to figure that out. But video should be up, obviously, before you're seeing this. But I'm recording this before that video had been released, which is not something that I want to do. But I'd rather keep going and keep these videos getting out in a timely manner. So, anyway, yeah, so we're just going to learn a lot about these things, and in the meantime, we're going to be getting our Wheezeworts. We'll be setting up probably some more ranching areas for more wood and more phosphorite, and we will basically just increase all of our infrastructure so that we can afford to feed these Wheezeworts the phosphorite that they're going to require. So yeah, I'll just start working on expanding this area since we're going to need that first, and we've already done this before, so nothing too special. When that's done, I'll come back and we'll get started, I think, on the material study research. Okay, I caught it in the act. I'm pretty sure that some meteors will come down and just plant one of these in the ground when they happen. I don't think it's from the seeds getting buried and then sprouting up. And our first experiment doesn't seem like it yielded anything, but it would have been really cool if it did. But yeah, we'll hopefully catch one. There you go. I saw it for just a second. There was a tiny one planted, but because there was no base to it, it fell down and it turned into just a seed. So that's how these work. I'm glad I finally caught this because there had to be something I was missing. And yeah, there you go. That one's just shaken out. So let's see if we can catch another one in the act. No. Trying to pay very close attention. No, that's all crushed ice. Here? Nope. Nope. Yeah, but it'll definitely happen. And that's what the source is. So, unfortunately, I was hoping that in this DLC they had plants that you could just plant yourself naturally, but wishful thinking right there. So, what I think we're going to do, I do have the other areas set up for more of these critters. So I will just have more flocks in one room and more of the mammoths in the other. I'm just going to call them beefalo because that's what they look like. But there you go. So I'm going to have that. We need our critter sensor to make sure that these rooms get loaded when it's time. But we are just going to double up on each of these. I'm also wondering how bad it would be if we were taking all the wood that they produce and turning it into ethanol so that we can feed these plants. Because that is another option, even though that generates a ridiculous amount of heat that I don't think we can deal with right now. The other thing that I did was I was making sure that this is only really needs to be on if it's warm enough. So the ethanol that's coming out of here right now is at 29.5. If it's ever above 30 for an extended period of time, I'm going to deprive the hydrogen to flow into this system, which means it'll eventually turn off. So I could lower this down if I really wanted to. Let's say like -25 or something like that. That will stop the system from turning back on, and any hydrogen in here will stop flowing into there so that we don't overcool this. So that's a simple way to... Here, once again, these plants are dying, and I'm pretty sure it's because of body temperature. Yeah, there you go. I knew that was a thing, because I went back and thought about this, and I was like, no, that's not happening, but that's totally happening. There you go. Bad body temperature, and it just uproots itself. As far as I know, the critters behave differently, too. If they're at the wrong temperature, they will just start to take damage until they die as well. But, yeah, that's definitely a new thing. So, let me get the flocks into these 2 rooms. But what I think we're going to do, since it now seems like we can just control where these get planted, what I think I might try... Let me think about this. If we have new... Let's say we dug out a spot that was like this. If I have new meteors come down and land, they're going to land in a way that it will plant a new tree sometimes. So I'm wondering if we can just level out this landscape enough for it to be reasonable for my duplicants to go up here and work with these seals. We could use the auto miners if we had access to it, but I don't think we have the research yet. So I'm really trying to come up with a plan for this. Where is this? Auto miner. Is that what it's called? Robo miner. Jeez. My names are terrible. Oh no, I can't get access to this. Okay, so we will get that, and I will try to level out the top of this the best I can and create an area that we can get a whole bunch of bonbon gourds, and we will do one of 2 things. We'll either hook them up for plastic, or we'll try to ranch a whole bunch of seals up here and see how much ethanol we can get. I know that ideally we would be harvesting these for their harvesting the solar energy for power directly. But if we can produce enough ethanol, then that will be a little bit more lucrative, but I'm not sure that we can actually do that. I'll need to think about this while we get our materials research up. And since my duplicants aren't really working on anything else right now, I will start getting materials research set up, and I will just do it by having a box that all the Wheezeworts are in. Put a bunch of hydrogen in it, and then we will generate some rad bolts. So I'll go over that build here in just a minute. Let me actually get this all polished up so that these can grow. And then we get these populations all stabilized, and then we'll get started in that. Okay, setups have been modified just a bit. I also had to account for the fact that when these things hatch, they could get stuck in the doors. I think either that or when they grow into adults, they can get stuck into the doors. But I did have one of these stuck here for a while. So I just moved it over and made this room a little bit bigger. I don't know if that's what the cause was, but yeah, it was this one. Or no, it was one of the other ones. It was a bald one sitting in here that was stuck. So it must have just barely turned into an adult. So try to move this around a little bit, so hopefully that wouldn't happen, but if the baby ones just randomly get stuck in the walls, that's not great. Anyway, so let's get started on our setup that's going to generate rad bolts for us. First of all, let me get a couple... Well, I'll come back and set this a little bit later. I was just going to use this to send these beefalo patties over here so that we could automatically ship them and then smash them up into phosphorite. But anyway, I think what we're going to do is we're going to set up something right here that borders our initial cooling setup, because if we need to use Wheezeworts to generate these, we might as well take advantage of the fact that they will create cooling for us as well. So we'll get the benefit of both of them, and we'll just hook it up to our same cooling setup that we already have. So hopefully we will get more and more use out of the hydrogen for power instead of cooling if we can use the Wheezeworts for it instead. So what I'm going to do is I will start building an adjacent room that is going to be for getting these Wheezeworts planted, but it's going to share a wall with these tiles, these farm tiles, so that any cooling will be easily exchanged between the two sides. First thing I'm going to do is get rid of this door. But in order to do that, and since my duplicates can build diagonally, I'm just going to build tiles above anything that I decide to remove. And this will go for any of the farm tiles too. So let me get rid of this switch. My duplicates should be able to reach that, so they will be able to unbuild this, I guess, or deconstruct it, whatever you want to call it. You and your fancy words. If you ever are changing tiles in one of these spots, you will want to put a tile above to make sure that no gas exchange happens. Because I really want this to only be hydrogen in here, and I want this to not be hydrogen for sure. And then we can just kind of build one tile at a time on the corners until we get to the things that we want. So for any of the farm tiles, we're just going to put a block on top, and then we will place a farm tile like that. We will need to leave one space for the Radbolt collection generator thingy. I don't even know what it's called. Let's find it. I think it's called Radbolt generator. Yes. We need to research this, but we're going to leave one space for that. We're just going to have one running because we just won't have the power and the phosphorite to push much more than that. So we'll get that set up. I will get the chamber all good to go and set up the rest of it so we can vacuum it out, fill it up with hydrogen, and then we'll work on the other half of it, which is the actual terminal, to get the research. Okay, now that we've got the slow part done, where we have basically a wall that borders this room with farm tiles and metal tiles, we can build out the rest of it. So all I'm going to be doing is building a room that is insulated away from a lot of the outside temperatures, and I need to not do this. There we go. Just going to build a very simple room that just has a spot to plant these wart seeds. I'm going to have a auto sweeper do the work for me, so my duplicates don't have to go in here because they will get heavily irradiated if they do. And we also need to set up some shipping systems to ship out some... Oh, I made a mistake. We need to add a pressure sensor, and we should probably add it over on this side, actually. The pressure sensor is going to be to ship the phosphorite here, but not ship all of it, only as much as we need. And I did that for these rooms, which I always forget about this setup for some reason, but basically, if you don't have the research for the conveyor receptacles, which are right here, you can just have a weight plate hooked up to a conveyor chute via some automation and set it so that if there's not enough weight here, to open the chute and let phosphorite through. I'll just be doing the exact same thing here. I just need to replace this tile, which again, we just need to build something on top of it. And then we need to put the weight plate down. There we go. The other thing I'm going to be doing is adding a conveyor loader on top. That's going to be like manual use, so my duplicates are allowed to use it. But I'm just going to have it go in like this and drop a conveyor, or connect a conveyor chute to it. And then if I need wart seeds, like I can choose whether I want 2 in here or eventually 4. I'm just going to start with 2 because I don't think I really have the phosphorite to push much more than that. So we're going to do that first. The Radbolt generator is going to be hooked up. What is with this new like shadow on it? I don't understand what that is. Huh. So figure that out later. But the Radbolt generator is just going to sit right here, and then the Wheezeworts are just going to be planted in these 4 spots. Now that we have that tile done, we can get rid of this. The last thing we're going to need is a gas pump to pump out all of the excess air that we don't want in here, so we're going to make it vacuum, and then we can send in hydrogen after that. So we'll just put a gas vent here. We will hook it up to our initial line, which I'll just steal all of it until we are ready to turn it back off. And I will just put this on a simple automation switch so that we can turn that on and off as we need to. For now, I will start with it completely disconnected so that we're not sending in hydrogen before the room is done. So I'll get that in there. And then the last thing that we need is obviously the conveyor chute and the automation wire to get the phosphorite in here, which the phosphorite might be a little bit warm. I don't really like this that much, but it'll be fine. So the line for the phosphorite is going to be right here. I'll replace the things that we need to connect this all up the right way. Just kind of run it up here. There we go. And into the chute. So there we go. This is about what the setup's going to look like. I will hook up the rest of it, let my duplicates give them some time to build this out, And then we'll explain how I'm actually going to get the rad bolts out of here, because there's a little trick that we can use to get it out. What melted? Oh, jeez. Building it out of mercury again. This is like the most annoying thing, that it's actually an option to build stuff with, because it's like, if it's never going to build anything, then why is it there? Just to like annoy me and melt stuff. I don't get that. But anyway, let me get my duplicates to build the rest of this out, and we will build a little sneaky thing that's going to be used to get the rad bolts out of here and into the actual machine that's going to do the research. Okay, we have our Wheezewort area ready. Let's start pumping it out. I just want to make this a vacuum, and then we'll turn the gas pump off. Like I mentioned, though, we're going to be generating rad bolts from this, but there's not really a way to get it out of this room unless we have the research that will reflect it basically through walls. I don't know what that's called. Is it this? What's the next one that's up from this? There's another one that's around here somewhere. But anyway, it's a tile that you will need to make out of plastic, but I don't have the right level of research to get it. But what you can do is you can do this, and you can shoot it out of corners, which is a little sneaky for sure. But I guess it's in the game, and it's not hurting anybody to use, so we might as well. So there. Now if we have a setup for our actual material study terminal, we can probably just kind of cram it down here. This should fly through, and it should land there. I don't need any of this automation, I don't think. Well, yeah, I guess I do. I did put a drop in here for getting the automation down to this rad bolt generator, so that we're only generating rad bolts when the machine actually needs it. So we'll build that out here in just a minute. Now that this is just about done, I think we can actually start sending the wart seeds in as well. Oh, wait. Oh, here we go. Allow manual use. So if we allow manual use on this, we can request wart seeds, and my duplicants will just bring them to this. And since we hooked it up like that, we don't have to... if we need more in there, like let's say we don't have all of them dug up. Where are they right now? Okay, we happen to have 5, but let's say that we only had like 2. And I wanted to keep these in here for the time being, which I probably should instead of digging all of them up all at once. So if we drop like 1 or 2 in there at a time, you can just stop requesting so that they're not all trapped in here all at once. There we go. So we don't need any more than that, so I can just turn this off. And now we have 2 wart seeds in here, and the auto sweeper will plant it for us. So we can just say, Wheezewort, plant. There we go, and it'll plant these 2. We also have access to the phosphorite, because the phosphorite's coming through the line. So there we go. Now this is generating radiation. But we really only want this to generate radiation when we actually are going to be using it. We could have set up a little bit more of a fancy setup than this, so there's a couple ways we could do this. We could hook up some automation, or we could clip this wire whenever we don't want it to continue going. I think for right now, I'm just going to keep the automation spinning, so I'm fine keeping this cooling, and I'm fine keeping the radiation running. If you wanted to do it a more fancy way than this, you could put like some mechanized airlocks underneath the, like on the floor right here, and then you could plant these Wheezeworts in some planter, instead of the planter tiles, into like the planter boxes. So they are right here. So you could just put this on top of some doors, which effectively automates it. Just probably a little bit cleaner setup. I think in hindsight, I probably should have done it that way. But oh well, this is fine for right now. Let's not go back and fix it. Alright, so I'm going to open this up to hydrogen, and it'll start spilling in. And you definitely want hydrogen to be in here with these Wheezeworts, because I always get these 2 mixed up. This one will work at the same power regardless of what kind of gas is in there, but these are definitely more efficient being in hydrogen. So between the 2 of them, they will definitely get cooled. Or rather, we'll definitely do a good amount of cooling. And this is just kind of doubling up on our cooling setup, and then the radiation will generate rad bolts for us. Man, 700 per cycle, that's a lot. So, let's set up our terminal over here, which we just need to go into stations, material study terminal. Can just hook it up like this, and this is kind of an awkward spot. Let me push it over 1. So we need it to be set up in a way that we can just reflect it in there. So we need a rad bolt reflector, which is going to be here. Oh, no, it's in radiation. And just hook it up like that, and then we need to also hook up the automation wire to the machine. The machine says it'll send a green signal when it's full, so we need to invert that and turn on our radiation generators when it's not full. So there we go. Just something like this, pretty simple. The Radbolt reflector will just face to the right, and then that should be it. So now we're generating enough to start our research for material study, so I will just start iterating through this entire list and researching stuff. Let me do a couple more things on the side, a couple little maintenance things, and then I'm going to start, well, actually one thing that we need before we start getting out here is we need the research for suits. So I guess we could queue that up right now. Oh, that doesn't require it. Okay, never mind. We could have done this the whole time. All right, but we'll still get it, this going. I actually should build this a little bit different. This is not going to catch it in the spot that I think it will. It needs to go here, right? Yeah, so it'll get caught there and it'll shoot straight down. Anyway, so I'll get that refined. Once we get our suit research and once I get a couple more things, I'm going to head out here and we're going to start kind of pruning up this area to see if we can get a setup going with these natural gourds. And I think for right now, I'm just going to see how much nectar I can get out of them and start making a little bit of plastic because I need it anyway. But we will see what else we can do with these seals and start generating a bunch of ethanol. So there we go. Got it generating right now, 77 per cycle, pretty good. And then it should fire through this corner right here when it's ready, and we should be able to continue with the setup. So yeah, I'll be back in just a bit when we're ready to start building out here, or at least starting to get nectar. I think we're probably going to do it for nectar first, by the way, just so we can make enough plastic to start up some transit tubes, because with being over in the corner like this, we definitely are going to need a faster mode of transportation, especially get up to the top. So I'll be back in just a minute. Okay, one of two things is true. I either forgot... Yep, I did. Okay. Just a quick update to this setup. This setup only really works if this is an exact spacing. So you definitely just need one diagonal space before the corner. If it's anything different, I had it up here, it would just hit the wall and be wasted. So I had to break in here, and the way that I did it was just, this wall was still intact. I created a liquid lock with some mercury, which is definitely one of the useful liquids for like liquid locking at such low temperatures. And then just vacuumed out all the excess gas, dug down there, made the changes, and then rebuilt it this way. So looks like we have it now, so we can continue to make some progress. One of the things I also want to start doing is making some of this pemmican, I think is how people were saying to say it. Pemmican, something like that, whatever. Because I do have a lot of tallow. It's not, I guess it's not that much, actually. I've had a bunch of seals die, and it doesn't produce that much. Well, I guess we'll at least get some of it, because as far as I can tell, it's a little bit more calorie efficient than barbecue. So barbecue goes in at 3,200 and comes out at 4,000. So that's what, an extra like 25%? This, for the meat that we're going to be producing, and since we already have this is 1,600 to 2,800. So that's another, like, almost 50%. So a little bit better than that. So, yeah. I think we're going to get some of that going as well. And I will just put this on a higher priority so that whenever we do have meat, we can at least get a little bit more calories out of there. One of the challenges that comes up every time that you expand your ranching areas is the excess that would have been meat winds up going to populate more of these. So I'm really not getting much meat lately. So I'm just having to throw down a bunch of emergency pike apple bushes just to make sure that we have enough to feed our colony for the time being. If we need to, I could lower my population expectations in these rooms or kill them off manually just to kind of balance out the food a little bit. But that does become a problem. So the other thing too is we have a bunch of seals that are stuck here that are not being killed, and this is mainly because they are apparently fine in water. So I have a whole stack of seals here that we could kill to get their tallow. I might just do it manually for right now, but the way you could do this otherwise is let's check their livable temperatures, and you could just keep them outside of that livable range. Well, never mind. We don't really have anywhere that we could do this right now. We don't have anywhere that's below 100C or above 100C, so I guess I'm doing it manually for the time being. My duplicates can just come in here and create some lard, I guess, that will go into our food. I'm also working towards getting up our deep fryer. So the deep fryer research is on the way, and we will start cooking some recipes with that in just a bit. But even still, these seals don't drop that much. I continue to remain rather unimpressed with them. But when they do drop the tallow, let me actually find one so that we can get to its database entry. Or we could just... here we go. So let's see. Let's go into database entry. You can use it in rather high quantities for each of these foods. So the balance here just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense with these seals. Even these other deep fryer recipes take a lot. And the only other thing that we really could make that would be even somewhat worthwhile, like this does not seem worthwhile to me because 1600 to 2800 and you're using double the tallow. Why would I not just use a micro musher and get this? I guess the quality is slightly better, but not for that much. So I guess we could play around with these squash fries. I could grow a couple more extra plume squashes and mess around with this a little bit because extra 1200 is not too terrible. But geez, I guess it's actually just as bad as this. I don't know. I'm not impressed with these seals at all. And that being said, let's make some setups with these seals. So I'm going to start refining some metal so that we can start getting out here, and I will kind of come up with a plan of how we are going to approach planting stuff out here, because it's going to be a little bit weird. We might have to shave off a whole bunch of this so that we start out at a fairly level playing field, and then we will just have to wait for meteors to populate these extra bonbon gourds, and then I guess we'll put some seals out there and see what we get. So that's the plan. But let me get some refined metal and all my infrastructure up for oxygen as well, because we're going to need that. And I want to get it after my material study terminal is really no longer needed, so we don't need as much power for this Radbolt generator. But yeah, we'll get there, and I'll come back when it's time. Okay, friends, I need your forgiveness for I am an American and we will do anything but use the metric system. And that fundamental misunderstanding led me to believe that the tallow was not very useful. But I was thinking that this was kilograms and not grams. 1 kilogram out of 2,962 is absurd. Which to me means that this is actually a very good food source, all things considered. Their eggs still might be better by themselves. So if you crack their eggs, which I was looking at just a second ago. Oh, I think I got rid of my egg cracker, so I was just using it to test. Let's build it here. If you crack their eggs, I think it technically is more calories, but I think I'm going to play around with this just a little bit, because each round of this produces... No, it's not. This is way better if you just use the tallow. Okay, so we're going to be using the tallow to make a couple of things. I need some table salt, and we will start making some fries. So I'm going to queue these up, and then I'm also going to queue up as much deep fried steak as I can get, because that will really be better than barbecue by ratio. Yeah, so this tallow is actually pretty nutty if you think about it from the terms of a seal. So one batch of food is either 1 or 2 kilograms. And again, forgive me, we're used to measuring stuff by, like, you know, the length of your foot and stuff like that, which is very accurate, let me tell you. It also divides very evenly. So the tallow drops 50 kilograms. That means that you could make 50 rounds of food, or 25 rounds of food, depending on what it is. Because the recipes I've seen really only take, like, either... Okay, this one takes a little bit more if it's the fish, but it produces way more. It looks like the shellfish also takes a little bit more. So yeah, either 50, 25, or 20 rounds of food for just one of these seals going down. That is insane. I had thought that this was not really that much, but this goes a long way once you have the deep fryer up. So, I am quite impressed with this now, and I think that that's actually quite a lucrative food source, all things considered. Assuming you have a source of these other things. So yeah, I guess we'll start making some fries and have a duplicate come in here and get that done. I do have some of the squash fries, or rather the plume squash, coming down every once in a while, just because the I'm just going to call them beefalo. I don't care. The beefalo don't quite eat these every single time, so sometimes they do grow to harvest. So we are getting a little bit of extra food. I am producing just a little bit of table salt, and yeah, we're just going to be running squash fries and deep fried steak for quite a while. So yeah, I totally misread this. I had also heard that these are not that lucrative, but the math is just obscene. I can make 2,955 batches of fries with the tallow that I have right now. That's pretty crazy. So yeah, I wanted to apologize for my lack of attention paid to the metric system. I know you made me switch over to Celsius and you got your wish, but apparently I'm still going to mess things up. Alright, so we're still getting everything set up to get an exit out into this area so we can start harvesting nectar. And once we start harvesting nectar and making a little bit of plastic, I think we're going to call it good for this. And then now that I'm much more excited about these seals, we are going to try to set up a lucrative seal farm with all this stuff, which should be pretty interesting, at least more lucrative than this one, which is just one seal at a time. But still, now that this is actually producing eggs, that produces a lot of food, all things considered, I'm back to being excited again about this. Yay! Okay, one more update on the fryer and microbe mushroom situation. The pemmican, I think I'm saying that right. I've literally never heard this word said out loud before. I've only read it hundreds of times. But this is a little bit more efficient when it comes to the tallow, and the amount of calories it comes out is the same. The quality of the steak is obviously better, but this seems like berry sludge level. Like, it will never go bad. So you could just make this endlessly and not worry about your food decaying. So I'm going to stick with this just to save on our tallow the best I can. And just to get a little bit more... Sorry for the screen flying around. And just to get a little bit more efficiency due to the fact that this never goes bad. So, there. Just wanted to mention that. Let's start getting out into this biome. I do have my suits up, and I'm just going to talk about the plan here while I do all the busy work, basically. The plan is just going to be to get out here and start to shave down all of the stuff that's been dropped, so that moving around here is pretty efficient. For right now, I'm just going to worry about the nectar from these trees and making plastic and that kind of stuff. And then I will worry about getting seals out here and start producing ethanol. So anywhere that there's not a tree, I'm going to try to shave it down so that we can have points where we can drop seals at all these locations later on. Actually, those spots are probably fine. The trees will, looks like if the branch is done, it'll shake off, and then if it's not done, it won't actually grow into that stuff. So we just need to cut down all of the ice and snow and all that fun stuff at all the places that it is not fully reseeded. Not really sure what I'm going to do about situations like this, because I need to build a ladder down to, like, get down there, but I guess I could just do something like that and get all the way down there. So I will just spend some time digging all this stuff out. We also need to wait for the oxygen to come through. Oh, well, that's because we never set it up, so never mind. Let's get that done. So our oxygen's set up. We're just going to have a couple of gas pumps here and a gas reservoir. And we're going to hook up these two pumps to the gas reservoir and make sure that what we're pumping in there is actually oxygen. So we'll do a check. Let me actually run it over here just a little bit and cancel this. We'll do a check here to make sure that it actually is oxygen, and if it's not, I will send it out and, let's see, this is actually not set up the nice way. Let's see, let me do this a little bit better. So I'm gonna go this way, and then we will do the check here. I just want to make sure I have enough space to build all this. So I'll do a check here, and if it's not oxygen, it'll get intercepted, and then I will go ahead and send it out. The same place that I'm sending out any other checks for gases that I don't want. So to do the check, I just need a gas pipe element sensor. Whoops. I don't know what the deal was with that. Man, this is really clumsy. All right, there we go. And then we need to run a check here with the gas pipe element sensor and then have a shutoff right next to it if it's something that we don't want. And we want everything other than oxygen. So I'm going to put a NOT gate here. The not gate is going to say, I want everything, if it's not oxygen, I want to send it out here. So this will be set to oxygen, not gate results in if this is not oxygen, then send it out. So there we go. And then the last thing that we need is a automation wire from the reservoir up into these pumps, because I only want the pumps to be running if we actually need oxygen. So now we effectively have a tank of oxygen once this is all built. And I'll show this when it's all done. But I'm going to have this oxygen routing out and eventually up into my suits, which I need to build all these lines. I think I got most of it already done. Oh yeah, I'm waiting for it right here. So I'll just kind of go around instead of where that's built right now. There we go. So when this is all up and running and when my duplicates get started on this, I will show the whole system up and running, and then we will probably do one more thing and I think call it good for this video. So I'll be right back. All right. System's up, and let's watch it run. So these two pumps are just going to be pumping out oxygen, among other things. When it finds the other things, it will turn on this shutoff and send it up the line, and eventually get ejected up here. Just in case it's hydrogen or something like that. Plus, we already have a line that's basically for junk anyway, that you keep kind of long just in case this vent is blocked. If you had a high-pressure vent, it would be no problem. But if it is oxygen, it'll go right past this evaluation point and into the tank. The tank itself has parameters on it that I've set to about 80-20, so it'll keep the tank filled to about those amounts. And it's connected via automation wire to the two pumps, so that those two pumps will only turn on when we actually need oxygen. Those are filling up these suits that are up here. And these suits are about ready to get started. You can see I just dug out a whole bunch of stuff. And my duplicates are going to get up here and effectively hook hoses to all of the different... Oh, I should probably wait until this is done, actually, because we're going to get some new trees. So let me cancel this. Perfect timing. Also, we might be able to... Oh, I thought I was on cancel. There we go. Also, we might be able to see the exact moment one of these drops. This was one of them. You can see it's brand new. But yeah, they just kind of pop up out of the snow when one of them lands. So maybe we'll get lucky and get some good positions here. But ideally what I would like to do is shave all these down to like here, if that's ever going to be possible. So that whenever I get new ones that come in, they're all on roughly the same level. So that I have a big flat level of all of these trees and seals. I guess gourds, we should probably call them what they're more formally called. But so that they're all relatively level. And then I can just build a backing to them and some, you know, robo-miners and stuff like that. And just set up a whole automated system up here for seals to just go nuts and make ethanol for me. And we'll see how much that actually gets done. I'm not 100% sure if the amount of nectar production is the same for something that's wild versus something that's not. Because the nectar production, here you go, it says right here, it's based on the branch productivity, but actually, let me look at this. So 133 grams per second on a domesticated one. What's this producing at? Oh, these are probably full. Where's one that's not full? Well, they're probably all full from being out here for so long. But if those rates are the same, then that means that keeping the wild ones is just as good as keeping the other ones. And of course, we just got here right when new ones drop, so I don't really have that. The growth that I expect that says that the life cycle is 4.5, I feel like that is to grow branches, right? Because you can still harvest these branches for wood, which I think means that all of these are producing at the same rate as this tree is, which means that we could support a lot of seals out here if we were able to get this all up. So that's the idea, but we first need to kind of like shave this place down and start harvesting at least for the plastic so that we can get the more efficient movement types up. Just going to be all of our transit tubes, which I don't quite have researched yet, but we'll get it. So that's going to be the plan, and let's start shaving this down. Okay, so pretty much confirmed that this does produce at the same rate as one of the domesticated plants. So this one only has 2 branches, and those 2 branches are producing at about 100%. And you can see the current nectar production's at like 51.3. And the fully illuminated one producing at 100%, 133 grams a second. So if you add those 3 extra branches that it should have, that would absolutely add up to that 133. So this is going to produce a lot of nectar, which to me says that ranching these seals out in space like this is quite viable. We'll see how much nectar this actually produces once we finish up the rest of the build. But my duplicates are just barely getting out here. I'm actually going to start requesting granite up to this location just because we're going to build everything out of granite, including the pipes. So the granite is just going to get filled up into these bins right here so that it's less time for my duplicates to have to go back and forth to get supplies. So we should be able to get this out pretty quick. And once it's all up and running, we'll build the polymer press and we'll see how much we can actually produce off of this. Okay, for you it's been like 5 seconds, but for me it's been a very long time getting all this stuff hooked up because it takes forever for my duplicates to travel all the way out here. And then they get radiation sickness and all kinds of stuff because we're on the hardest settings, so hooray for that. But we have most of them hooked up, so this is what our piping is looking like nowadays, and pretty much every tree that could produce is producing for us, except for maybe like 5 or 6 of them. We have now stored about 3,000 kilograms of nectar, and the rest of it is all in this pipe that's just going to be heading down to our polymer press. Also, another thing to think about with this is this just produces extremely cold liquid on its own. This could almost double as like a cooling system, which is pretty interesting. The nectar that's coming out is at -40. I mean, if you need something cooled down, -40 sounds pretty good to me. So I think that is another really interesting side effect of this. So anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a pipe that will exchange a bunch of its temperature at like the hottest part of my base, which is right next to my electrolyzers. Not because I'm really worried about the heat, but because this ought to ease the burden on my thermonullifier and on my hydrogen setup so that I can use more of that for power. Because right now we are using a lot of manual power to keep everything running. This is only going to get worse as I hook up the polymer press, by the way, and the transit tubes, but that's a story for another day. So, actually, let me take another duplicate because our food is pretty out of control. This pemmican is so good. This is like the new berry sludge, at least when you're running something like this. Lots of dupe labor for this also. Berry sludge is probably still a little bit better, but still interesting. So let's pick someone. Sure, how about you? Nails, you don't need a jacket, so that's good. Alright, I'm probably just going to keep taking duplicates so that we can continue to add some more power stations. Probably just need a place for them to eat. There we go. And the polymer press, so let's get that. So polymer press, we're just going to drop down here. In advance, I already replaced these tiles with just some metal iron tiles just to keep this area pretty cool. Could probably put down a handful of temp shift plates as well, so I'll go ahead and do that. Just something like this to help keep it cool. And then this should just be able to take in the nectar and create plastic from it. We do need an exhaust out of this, and I'm pretty sure the exhaust is always carbon dioxide. I think the steam just kind of comes out of it, if I'm remembering right. So, I guess this is probably going to be a little bit warm. So we go ahead and hook it up like that. I think that once we get this polymer press built and everything, I'll turn it on, we can see the process going, and then I think that's going to be it for this video. The next one, we are going to get back out into space and do a lot more things out here, because these are very intriguing to me right now. And we'll hopefully have enough for our transit tubes up so our duplicates can get there a little bit quicker. Our wood situation is also very good, so I might start burning more of it for power. We really got hosed when it comes to power options on this asteroid, especially because we don't have steel, and plastic we're just barely getting to right now. So even if we wanted to run like steam turbines or something, we don't really have a great way to cool them. So yeah, that's pretty interesting, but we're still keeping on. We could have solved a lot of this, by the way, by just putting up some solar panels, and I still might, but I really want to play around with these trees and see how much ethanol we can generate. Because if we can generate enough ethanol to the point that we get enough power to run like petroleum generators, I guess. They're called petroleum generators, I'm pretty sure, but they still do burn ethanol. Yeah. So we could put some of that stuff up depending on how much ethanol we actually get. So let's just fast forward to when this is done. All right, and we're off. So now we have the nectar coming in, getting turned into plastic. We're going to just run these things for a while. They should be generating a good amount of heat, but the nectar itself, plus all the cool water that I have right here, ought to keep this area nice and cold. I think I might wind up expanding the base down a little bit more before the next video starts. So I might just do some of that, like, I guess kind of boring stuff or like maintenance stuff on the side. And then I will come back when it is time to talk about the next thing that we're going to be doing, which will be in the next video, which I'm hoping to get up pretty quickly. But I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a pretty large project up here that is going to shave off a whole bunch of this and kind of shave it down to, I don't know, maybe, I guess we could see how low we could get. This is probably the lowest point. So I guess at least on this side, maybe around this area. This side I could probably drop down even further. Maybe down to the teleporters is how low we might go. But I do want to get down this far just because we can save a lot of travel time by just being closer. And we do need a basis to start this from. I'll explain more about the idea that I have in the next video, but basically we're going to try to take advantage of all the meteors that come down and drop these gourds and just make a giant seal farm up here. And we'll see what that does. It might not do anything worthwhile, but we're going to try it. So that's the plan. All right, this is about how we're looking right now. Lots of progress made in this video. But yeah, anyway, thanks for watching, and I will see you back here very soon for the next part.